We are here in the year 2025, and the Phoenix Suns, a team that had title aspirations going into this season, are below 500. They just recently lost to the Memphis Grizzlies without Ja Morant at home. And in that game, Kevin Durant played, Bradley Beal played, and Devin Booker played. That is the big three that's supposedly supposed to get the Phoenix Suns back to the promised land, and the team they are paying the most amount of money in the NBA for. As it stands currently, the Phoenix Suns are the 11th seed in the Western Conference out of a play-in tournament spot. They are the 24th ranked defensive team in the NBA and 19th overall in net rating. That's just not going to get it done. And the Suns have struggled to defend this year. They gave up 138 points to the New York Knicks. They gave up 127 points to the Brooklyn Nets, 126 points to the New Orleans Pelicans, one of the worst offensive teams in the NBA this season. They gave up 121 points to Miami, 115 to Orlando, 126 to Utah, 133 to Detroit. And the Suns have had a brutal schedule as of late. They've had to go through a ton of Western Conference teams like Memphis, Golden State, Dallas, Denver, and these have been winnable games. Dallas doesn't have Luka Doncic. The Golden State Warriors are not as intimidating as they was going into the year, but their upcoming games, they're going to be able to go to Charlotte, host Atlanta, host Utah, host Charlotte again, play a lot of those Southwest Division teams, which could be get-right games for the Phoenix Suns now that their big three is healthy, and Jusuf Nurkic will no longer be suspended. But if they do not make it out of that stretch by multiple games above 500, we're not going to take them seriously whatsoever as even a playoff team this year. And in the playoffs, you need to be able to play defense, and we saw how much they struggled against Minnesota defensively last year. What has changed? Are they going to put all this pressure on the rookie Ryan Dunn to save them in the playoffs? Because that's just not going to set them up well. And this team is already on a new head coach. They fired Frank Vogel after just 1 year in Phoenix. They went on to Mike Budenholzer this year, who I do think is a better coach than Frank Vogel, but is it really making much of a difference? I don't think so. And this team is currently paying Kevin Durant $100 million over the next 2 years. Bradley Beal is getting paid over $150 million over the next 3 years, and Devin Booker is getting paid over $200 million over the next 4 years. And it wasn't too long ago where the Phoenix Suns were one of the best teams, if not the best team in the NBA. They lost the 2021 NBA Finals to the Milwaukee Bucks, and then they were the best regular season team at the end of that 2022 season, but they did get upsetted by the Dallas Mavericks. And then it wasn't too long after that they made a blockbuster trade going all in for Kevin Durant from the Brooklyn Nets. And then a year later tried creating a big three in Phoenix and getting Bradley Beal from the Washington Wizards. Back in the day when the NBA wasn't as talented as it is currently, you were able to pull off a big three and have guys around that big three that really weren't as good. But nowadays, you need a team that are 7, 8, 9 guys deep to compete with how the modern NBA is, because every team has a lot of talented players. It's not what it used to be when LeBron was in Miami or when Kobe was in LA. And when you look back at the Kevin Durant trade, trading away Mikal Bridges, Cam Johnson, and a bunch of future first-round picks that a lot of them haven't conveyed yet, you really took a big risk to build a team around Kevin Durant and Devin Booker. And I know the 2023 Suns with KD in the playoffs ended up losing in round 2 to the Denver Nuggets in 6 games, but that was the future finals champions. That Denver Nuggets team was unreal around Nikola Jokic being the best player in the NBA. And when Kevin Durant was healthy that year, they were a really good team offensively, but in that offseason, they decided to trade away Chris Paul for Bradley Beal, and that was the start of the Phoenix Suns' downfall. And we all knew that Bradley Beal had the worst contract in the NBA. He's one of 2 players in the NBA with a no-trade clause. You got LeBron James, yeah, you could say he's the greatest player of all time. That makes sense, he has a no-trade clause, and Bradley Beal. And Beal signed that Supermax extension with the Washington Wizards. The Wizards were the only team that would even give Bradley Beal that type of money. Obviously, they were able to give him that 5th-year player option in 2027, where Bradley Beal can make $57 million. I can't predict the future, but I can guarantee you he's opting into that deal. And not only did they acquire Bradley Beal to have a 3rd scoring option on this team and pay him the most amount of money in the NBA at that time, this team does not own any of their future first-round picks directly. It's either going out to a different team or it's going to be a swap worst in that draft. So this team really can't afford to have a down year or a retool year in any shape or form. And another trade that hasn't really aged the best for Phoenix right now is the 3-team trade in September of 2023. The main part of that was Damian Lillard going to the Milwaukee Bucks, but they got involved in this trade and sent DeAndre Ayton and Toumani Camara to the Portland Trailblazers, and they received Jusuf Nurkic, Keon Johnson, Nasir Little, and Grayson Allen. Now, 2 of those players are irrelevant today, Nasir Little and Keon Johnson, and Grayson Allen was very good for the Phoenix Suns last year. Don't get me wrong, he was one of, if not the best 3-point shooter in the NBA objectively in the 2024 season. They extended Grayson Grayson Allen over $70 million over the next 4 years, and this year he has not been what he was last year. He averaged 13.5 points last year. That's down to 10.5 points this year. He shot 46% from 3 last year, led the NBA, down to 37% from 3 this year, shot 49% from the field last year to 40% from the field this year. And oh yeah, they got arguably the worst starting center in the NBA in this trade as well, Jusuf Nurkic. And I'm not saying DeAndre Ayton is miles better than Jusuf Nurkic, but Nurkic is averaging 8 points, 9 rebounds. He's shooting 30% from 3 and plays some of the worst defense that I've seen from a starting center, or at least from a team starting center that wants to win a title. And there's been talks that Phoenix would be willing to trade away their 2031 first round pick, a pick that they can send out in a trade to get off of the Jusuf Nurkic money or to get somebody else in return. And that's just insane. This team is not going to win a title even if they trade that first round pick with Jusuf Nurkic. And unless you're getting Nikola Jokic or Anthony Davis in that deal, I would not feel confident that this team could make the NBA Finals, let alone the Western Conference Finals, with how loaded the Western Conference is this season. And with Kevin Durant being 36 years old and still under contract next year as well, that brings up the idea. Do you trade Kevin Durant? Because KD is still playing at an MVP level. 27 points, 6.5 rebounds, 4 assists this year on KD-like efficiency. 50% from the field, 40% from 3, over 80% from the line. He has dealt with a couple injuries this year, but does not look like he lost a step whatsoever as an offensive scorer. And I think that's why Houston wanted to make that trade with Brooklyn in the offseason. They said, we'll give Brooklyn back their first round picks. We'll take on Phoenix's first round picks because we think it's inevitable that Phoenix is going to implode and we can offer them a lifeline. You give us one of your good players and we'll give you your draft picks back. Because what trade value does a 36-year-old Kevin Durant have who's an expiring contract next year? I don't think it's as much as we think, and it's definitely not going to be as much as they gave up for Kevin Durant back when they traded him from Brooklyn. So that brings up the idea as well. Do you trade Devin Booker, who's 28 years old, he's under contract for the next 4 years, and he can almost double your Kevin Durant return package in my opinion, but this is a very risky deal because Devin Booker is a homegrown star and arguably your best homegrown star in the 21st century. Devin Booker is having somewhat of a down year this year, shooting 42% from the field and 34% from 3, but he's still averaging 25 points, 4 rebounds, and 6.5 assists. And we have seen a large sample size of Devin Booker being miles better efficiently than this season, so I don't think that this is going to be anything more than just an outlier season. But yeah, it could get real dark real quick for the Phoenix Suns if they realize that they are not going to be able to do anything with this current roster in the Western Conference, and they're a team that's in the second apron right now. They also can't afford to pay any of these taxes going forward, because I know Matt Ishbia has committed a ton to wanting to build a win-now team, but if they are a repeat offender in the second apron, they're going to lose a first-round pick down the line. They can't do anything in the buyout market. They can't take back more salary than they give out in a trade. They're going to be very financially restricted to improve this roster, and that is just going to make things 1,000 times tougher to build a winning, contending team in the modern NBA. There was the Bradley Beal rumor that they could be interested in Jimmy Butler. Bradley Beal would have to waive his no-trade clause to go to Miami. They'd have to attach most likely a 2031 first-round pick or some type of swap to get this deal done. But why would Miami want Bradley Beal? I said before, he has one of, if not the worst contract in the NBA, and Miami has their own issue with Jimmy Butler right now. I don't think they want to downgrade from Jimmy Butler to Bradley Beal, have to pay his money going forward, and they're not going to have as much salary cap flexibility that they would have had if they're able to get Jimmy Butler off for either expiring deals or not as bad of a current contract as Bradley Beal's deal. And you know, I'll be positive to Phoenix. I think they did a good job in the 2024 draft. I think getting Ryan Dunn at the end of the first round was a phenomenal pick. I was a big fan of Ryan Dunn, especially defensively coming out of Virginia, and I think they got him about 10 picks too late, so I think that was a great job by them. I'm also a fan of Oso Ighodaro out of Marquette. I think he's a very smart player, high basketball IQ. I think they did a very good job in that 2024 draft, but I don't think it's going to be enough to save them. They're not going to have the bird rights to re-sign Tyus Jones at the end of the year. They have no future draft picks. They don't have a good young core whatsoever. Yes, you do have Bradley Beal and Kevin Durant, but Kevin Durant is 36 years old. He's a free agent at the end of the 2026 season. Bradley Beal is 31 years old. We're going further and further away from what he was during those Washington Wizards days, and I'm really scared for the Phoenix Suns in their future because I think it can get real ugly real quick. So yeah, let me know what you guys think about the Phoenix Suns and their future down below. Do you think I'm being too harsh? Do you think that it's a little bit more positive than I was making it out to be? Or do you think we're going to see a major trade at one point where teams are going to be calling, like the San Antonio Spurs or the Houston Rockets or the OKC Thunder or maybe even the Brooklyn Nets, trying to not get Kevin Durant but to get Devin Booker? So yeah, drop a thumbs up if you guys did enjoy. Let me know what you think down below. Subscribe if you're not already and turn on notifications, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.